Putting the spotlight on small businesses across America. This is Inside Business with Travis Filing and Gary Tharnish.
We're back on Inside Business. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish, and our guest today is Stephanie Olson, the CEO of the Set Me Free Project. Thank you so much for coming in.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting conversation. So just give everybody kind of that nice 30,000-foot view of what this of yourself. Tell us about you, and then tell us about the Set Me Free Project.
So I'll start with the Set Me Free Project because that is a little easier for me. But we are a nonprofit. We're a national nonprofit that does prevention education on human trafficking, social media safety, and then we talk about things like healthy relationships, sexual violence, and all of that stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. And then me, I'm a mom of 3 adult children, and which is part of how this all got started. And then I have a fabulous supportive husband and an adorable 9-month-old lab who is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So
when you said adult children, I thought maybe we were going to have grandchildren because they're the best when you get those.
That's what I know, but I don't have any yet, and I'm waiting because my kids my adult children are still young. So
okay, got it.
Give them a little time.
Well, Gary's grandkids, you have one approaching teenage years, right?
Oh wow.
Well, he's car hunting.
Oh,
I have a 14-year, going to be 15 soon.
Okay.
Yeah.
So are because my grandkids are young.
Yeah.
Are teenage grandkids the same as teenage kids?
No. Oh no.
They're
very different. Just like in raising them.
possibly.
So here's the deal. So my son Josh is quiet. I mean, he's not a talker, right? Because when could he get a word in edgewise with me? Let's just start with that. But his son Charlie, so my grandson, is talkative. So if I want to know what's going on, I call him. If I, like, hey, Josh, how are things going? Good. Hey, I hear you're looking for a new job. Yep. Hey, I left some voicemails. Call me when you can. Will do. Been busy. Hey, Charlie, how are things going?
And off you go. Yeah.
That's funny. I love it.
And kids are that way too, right?
They are.
My daughter was in a serious relationship for I don't know how many months before my other daughter goes, hey, did you know Erin's dating? And I'm like,
oh, geez.
No, she isn't. Has she gone on a date? No, she's been
oh my gosh
7 months.
That's so funny you say that because my son, who actually is pretty outgoing and talkative, just doesn't tell his parents the important things in his life.
Sure.
So we found out all of the things when he was in high school, like, oh, you're in student council. Congratulations. You won an award. That's awesome. Because we read it in the newsletter. What? Yeah.
I love it.
That's funny. So tell us about your career wise. I mean, what did you do? Did you go to college? What were your careers leading up to Set Me Free?
I did. I went to college at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, studied psychology and English.
Nice.
Really had no intention of doing anything I'm doing today. I wanted to be a psychologist and, sit one-on-one with people. And then I realized, wow, I don't like people that much. So
people are messy. Like Gary always
she
says,
is going to fit right in.
Yes.
Here we go. And our producer today is not a people, so we're good.
Oh, good. Excellent. Yes. Well, that's, I think I like them in short stints, but I think sitting across from somebody listening to their problems for a long time would have been
no kidding
a lot for me.
That would be a drag.
That
really would be a drag.
You would be horrible.
Oh no, I would be terrible.
They would,
but I'd be effective.
He would say, "Shut up and deal with it." Yeah, right.
Yeah.
You'd be broke.
Yeah. Oh yeah. They'd quit after the first session.
I always tell people, like, "Do you like your psychologist?" Yeah. Okay, you need to change.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Honestly.
That's true.
Because then they're not telling you what you want to hear.
They're not tough enough. Yeah.
I love it.
So I kind of went into a different area, and really I started this organization. I had been working with women specifically in the area of sexual and domestic violence and addiction. And I am all of those things. I'm a survivor of sexual and domestic violence, and I am a recovering alcoholic. And so really had a heart for women and youth on those topics. And one day, one of my coworkers with this nonprofit we were a part of said, "Hey, let's help sex trafficked victims." That was a quote. And I really had no idea what that meant.
Sure.
And so I thought, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. But when we started to really research it and study it, we thought, whoa, that's not what it looks like. And we started talking to people in the schools. And I think the bottom line was we realized at the time we both had elementary and middle school kids, and my kids are the targets. I don't know about this. They don't know about this. And that's really how we started.
Yeah. And as I was thinking about this, because I actually did about 10 minutes of show prep this morning, by the way, reading about
No
your
way.
page. I did. I know it's very shocking.
I feel honored.
But anyway,
actually.
okay.
You should. You should. Yes.
But it's a horrific topic to even have to talk about. And I have been
Yeah.
sadly in conversations where people are like, is it really a problem? Is it really a problem? So awareness is one thing. I think people don't know when they hear sex trafficking. I don't think they really know what that means or
Correct.
where does that happen. I remember I was traveling for a business event out to Alliance, and we stopped at a truck stop. I want to say maybe south of Aurora or Grand Island somewhere. And she goes, this is like apparently one of the biggest sex trafficking areas right here. And it's a big truck stop, there's and you just kind of go, wow, the stuff that happens that we don't know about. And quite honestly, the level of perversion in the world, in our country,
Yeah.
is, and I think that's also why people don't want to talk about the topic. It's hard.
It's uncomfortable.
Right.
I always say, for a long time, I had my head in the sand, and it's warm in there. It's
Yeah, it's
comfortable.
nice.
It's a great place to be. But once you pull your head out of the sand, then you kind of know, and you have to, you can't not know.
Yes.
So, and we do talk about more than just sex trafficking. Human trafficking as a whole has a lot of different components. And when we look at whether we're looking at the Midwest, but domestic, nationally, altogether, both sex and labor trafficking is huge.
Sure.
Yeah.
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 And it's just, it's so incredibly sad that it happens, and it's because people don't speak out or they don't want to be aware, or actually a lot of people are just like, well, my kids are okay, I'm watching, but
yes,
they don't understand it. There's just so much. Anyway,
and that is a huge piece. Like, it's not going to happen to my kids, so
Mhm.
it's okay. But the reality is, it is happening to our kids and our grandkids, and it's in our home because of social media.
Yeah. Well, and you think I live in a middle class neighborhood, and I have a good school district, and I have all these things, and that means you're at risk.
Correct.
I mean, I have heard stories even and I live in small town.
Yeah.
I've heard stories of it happening.
Well, and small towns are also very at risk. And one of the things, and we can kind of get more into how trafficking happens, but when you look at something like social media and you look at a small town mindset, because this is all I know, right? I know all of these people in my town.
Yep.
You don't have that knowledge of how to manage the bigger world, so to speak. But when you're on social media now, you may still have this small town mindset, but now you have access to the world, and the world has access to you.
Right. So geographical location is nothing when it comes to social media, right? And so they and then you add in that they think they're talking to a teenager, and then it's like, oh, I don't know what it's like to live in the Midwest, but I've got we go do all these really fun stuff. I mean, there'd be so many ways because, like you said, there are no boundaries on social media.
There are no boundaries.
It's not your little town. It's not whatever.
And I would even think small town, because everybody is so trusting.
Yeah.
That it's probably even worse there.
100%.
Because I remember, I grew up in Cleveland. I've lived in all these big cities. And then when we moved to Panama, we were sitting down, they had a little cafe, and we're sitting at a table, and there's probably 5 of us, right? And the table seats 10, and 2 people walk up and sat down at my table. Right. Well, you don't do that in my neighborhood, because now you're like infringing on my territory. And I started to stand up like, oh, this is happening here. Right. Because that was my mindset. And Shannon is like, it's okay. We're all family. We're all friends. We're all just relaxed. This is how it goes.
That's funny.
That was weird. But take that mentality on the opposite way is oh, it's an adult, it's a regular person, everybody is nice, the whole world is Skittles and rainbows like it is in this small town.
Yeah.
That's really a scary thought.
Yeah.
For
sure.
awareness, huge. I mean, it's just huge. And the fact that social media takes away the geographical boundaries, that's probably one of the scariest things. And as a parent, I failed when it came to social media. I failed when it came to Amazon.
Yeah.
I mean, I had a daughter that was going through stuff and ordering books, and you just didn't know that they were getting darker and I mean, there's so many things in the world now where you can be in, little town wherever, and you're really not.
Yeah. And as a parent, you've got to monitor those things. But if you don't know how to, what do you do? And so that's
I wouldn't know
huge.
how to.
Exactly.
Yeah, I was like, oh, you want more books? Good for Christmas. We'll give you an Amazon gift card. I mean,
yeah,
for sure.
Well, I know we have a break coming up here, so let's run to that really quick. You're listening to Inside Business. Travis File and Gary Tharnish. We're talking with Stephanie Olson, CEO of the Set Me Free Project, and we're going to dive a little bit deeper into the Set Me Free Project when we come back right after this.
Early mornings, late nights, real pressure. If you've ever built something from nothing, you're in the right place. This is Inside Business with Travis Filing and Gary Tharnish.
We're back on Inside Business. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish. We're talking with Stephanie Olson, CEO of the Set Me Free Project. Let's talk a little bit deeper about, why there's a need in paying attention to what is going on out there under our nose.
Absolutely. Well, first I'm going to define human trafficking because I think that's important. A lot of times when people hear human trafficking, they think kidnapping, shipping overseas, things like that. But human trafficking is the use of force, fraud, or coercion to compel an individual for services, labor, or commercial sex. So that force, fraud, and coercion is a really important piece. And a lot of times, in our era, we think of the movie Taken. And I always think, like when my kids were little, as long as I don't say, and if you don't know the movie Taken, it's about two girls who go off to Europe by themselves and they meet this cute guy. They get into a cab and they get kidnapped because he knows where they live and they get sold into the sex trade.
And the bad news is, listeners, your dad is not Liam Neeson,
no
so you need
way.
to pay attention.
I always said, like as long as I don't send my kids to Europe by themselves, or my daughters specifically, we're good. And if Liam Neeson were their dad, we'd be better.
Yeah, we'd be fine. Go have a blast.
Yeah, exactly.
Selfish use of air. Aaron, I am really sorry I made you watch that movie a lot before you went to Prague to study overseas. Okay, there. That's the last time I have to say it.
What? That is okay. That's okay. You probably didn't have a special set of skills, did you, Gary?
I don't know. I have a special set of daughters, something, because I went over to visit. And on second to last night, I get a call at 2 something in the morning from her friends that are like, we can't find Aaron.
Oh, geez.
We can't find Aaron.
God.
Oh.
Yeah. Turns around, what happened was that they were all at this bar dancing, having fun. And some guy walked by with a piece of pizza. She's like, pizza. I haven't had pizza since I left America. So she followed him and got on the subway and then ended up clear out it at the end of the subway. So on the outskirts, and they close from 3:30 till like 5:30.
So
what does she do? Talks to the guy with the pizza who's still there because they've been chatting. They get in a vehicle and a cab to come back to town.
Apparently she didn't watch Taken.
And I'm there. And I'm like, okay.
That's where all your hair went, because that's exactly what would happen to me.
Yeah.
I would still lie awake at night.
The point is, well-educated in college, 4.0 student, knows better. I did everything that I thought I could, and still it happened. So it can happen.
Mm-hmm.
It does.
In so many ways.
It absolutely does. And so what we see here typically is that force piece rarely happens, but the fraud and coercion happens a lot. And so with human trafficking, it isn't really about kidnapping and getting in I mean, yes, don't get in a cab with someone you don't know. Don't get in a car with someone you don't know. You know, be aware of your surroundings. But I jokingly say, and this is probably highly inappropriate, but a crime junkie that I am, you know, could you park next to a white van at a Walmart and get kidnapped? Absolutely.
Sure.
Good news, bad news. You won't get trafficked, murdered maybe, but not trafficked. And so you just have to know what human trafficking actually is and what it is not. So it is relationship building. That fraud, I love you, you know, come with me, we're going to be a great family, is huge. Coercion, manipulation, or blackmailing, things like that. That's what we're seeing more of when it comes to the luring of trafficking.
Sure, they use fear, joy. You know, are you bored in your town? You know, there's more to life than that.
Yep.
You know, so much.
And it's
crazy.
It's a grooming process, and it can be very long term. And so I can groom somebody for a year or more. And then once I traffic them, they're going to be not only mine, but they're going to think they chose this.
I have a question on statistics. I don't know if you can do that or what, or for percentages or whatever, but like, there's a misconception with people that are like, well, if this was really happening, we would see missing kids everywhere. And I'm like, hey, hang on. You know, if they leave the house, maybe they're 13 or 14 and call mom and dad, or there's this mom and dad know that, hey, they've run away. Is that statistics the same as a missing person? Because there's a big misconnect there.
Huge. Yeah. So the thing about trafficking that's tricky is that let me just tell you a quick story. There was a high school gal. She was going to school every day. She was living with mom and dad, getting straight A's, and her boyfriend was trafficking her or selling her at night. Mom and dad had no idea. She's living at home. So it can look very, very different than what we think. Trafficking doesn't mean transporting. And so I can stay right where I am and be trafficked and live at home. I can be trafficked by a neighbor. We're seeing a lot of familial trafficking too. So moms and dads are the traffickers. Grandmas and grandpas are the traffickers.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that is a hard one to understand for sure, but we are definitely seeing a lot of that.
I did actually read a story. Some guy he had 2 sons, and he luckily he was talking to somebody on an undercover sting, and I'm sitting here going, what? And it throws your mind in this weird space because you go, A, a parent would actually do this, and then B, you go, boys? You automatically think it's always girls, and that's probably pretty stupid.
I'm so glad you said that, because that is a very huge misconception that only girls are trafficked, only guys are the big bad traffickers. The reality is, and depending on where you live or your community, that boys are trafficked almost up to 50% as often as girls are.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. And tell me why you think we hear only about girls. Why would we only hear about girls?
Shame.
I would say boys wouldn't say anything.
Shame.
I wouldn't say anything.
Yeah, you feel guilty.
100%.
So I know an adult male who was trafficked by his mother.
Okay.
And it's a long, horrible story. I don't really want to talk about it, but and the level of you deserve this.
Oh yeah.
When you're a kid, that's told into your head is that then you feel like I'm not worthy. I'm not good. There's something wrong with me, which is why this happened. I mean, it's a horror story, but
you are so right. And you know, that's why, so with our curriculum, because all we do is curriculum and training. I'm glad we're getting to that. We are all prevention education. But with our curriculum, we start with you have an intrinsic value that can't be changed, because that is the piece right there.
Right, sure.
That is missed. And so if you recognize your own intrinsic value, it kind of changes how, and that's a problem. I mean, if you're growing up in trafficking, that's hard to find. I mean, that's not going to be intuitive, right? But when you recognize someone else's intrinsic value, you can't buy them, you can't sell them, you can't even bully them,
Yeah.
really.
Well, and it's I'm around a lot of different families. So I see that I'm in real estate. So, I mean, I'm always, you just see
you
families
see a
together.
lot.
And I'm surprised how many present absentee parents there are. Kind of know what I mean?
I do.
Like they're not really teaching the kids how to do dishes. They're not really spending time with them. It's like manage on your own. You know how to microwave a hot dog when you're 6, leave me be. And so they're going to model that. And it's been modeled for generations sometimes.
It's
hard.
It is hard. And I think sometimes parents get to a place where, okay, now I've got a middle schooler, now I've got a high schooler. Whew, they're independent.
Right.
I'm good. And really, that's the time you need to press in.
Yeah.
Because it is really, not that you shouldn't press in when all ages, but that's when you need to dig deep.
To really simplify that, right?
Right.
When they're little, they need us.
Right.
Right. Transportation, food, whatever. By the time they're
right.
13, they may have a little bit of money.
Yeah.
I always say you have your kids till you're 16, really. Once they have a car.
Yeah.
16?
I think.
Oh, I was
did you not
say,
let your kids drive till
I still
they're
have
30?
Kids
Well, they
that
come back.
Sorry to ruin your day there.
They don't actually want to be with you at that point, but they do come back. So
yeah. Well, like the story you told about the high school girl who at night was being trafficked by her boyfriend. As a parent, would you really know that?
No.
I mean, it's like, oh, we're going to the movies or we're going. And if you've met the boyfriend, you like the boyfriend, you don't know what's happening behind the closed doors.
Yeah.
Which is a huge thing, actually. First of all, let me tell you that one of the things we're working on is a curriculum specifically for real estate agents because they see so much. And so how do you see it? What do you do? How do you, prevent it in there? But I think as parents, it is really challenging. We have to know, I always say we have to know what our kids are doing in the cyber world and the real world all at the same time. And that's hard. Yeah. It is hard. We have to know. And the other thing I always said, you have to start conversations with your kids when it's really early. Like when they're talking to you about Minecraft and your eyes are glazing over and you have no idea what they're saying, you have to be interested there. And then when they're teens, you can start talking about those deep things because that's where it starts when they're young.
Yeah. Well, I know we have a break coming up here, so let's run to that real quick. When we come back, it's 5 takeaway times. You're listening to Inside Business. Travis File and Gary Tharnish. We're talking with Stephanie Olson, CEO of the Set Me Free Project.
Stories of local success. You're listening to Inside Business with Travis Filing and Gary Tharnish.
We're back on Inside Business. Travis Filing and Gary Tharnish. We're talking with Stephanie Olson, CEO of the Set Me Free Project, and it is 5 takeaways time. So this is where we hand off 5 pieces of advice. This could go many different directions. So we could talk anything that you want to talk about. But let's go into the first piece of advice that you want to hand off to our listeners.
I love it. Well, as a nonprofit CEO, one of the biggest questions I get is, I want to start a nonprofit. How do I do it? And my first answer is always don't. Don't start a nonprofit, because the first thing you need to do is find out who's doing that in your world. I think a lot of times people think nonprofit people sit around and sing Kumbaya all the time. We don't do that, at least not in mine. But the reality is it's a competitive, cutthroat industry.
Yeah. It's not talked about that way, but
it is.
Yeah,
it is.
And my daughter worked in nonprofits for a long time.
So
and you have this mindset that like, oh, these billionaires are just showering these nonprofits with gold coins, and
that would be nice.
Wouldn't that be wonderful?
That would be. No.
The other thing I think about with that point where you talk about starting a nonprofit, find out what's already there around you, is sometimes I heard this described once in a psychology class I took at UNL, but it was when you have a societal challenge, right? In order to solve it, it often has at least 5 fingers of the issue of what's going on.
Yeah.
So like in your situation, you're really going to focus on education, which is vitally important.
Right.
But if you take a pillow and you put your whole hand on it, palm down on the pillow, you can squish it down. But if you do just this finger, it pops up over here. If you it pops up over there. So I always think, no, also, is there a missing part? Maybe the challenge societally is being addressed by some organizations, but is it getting all 5 fingers taken care of?
Well, and I think
did that make any sense?
No, it does. Yes. That's a really good point. And that's where I think it is really, when we started this organization over a decade ago, there really wasn't anybody doing prevention education on this topic,
right?
Even nationally. And we are still one of the only organizations that just focuses on that. Everybody else kind of does
the other
also restoration and recovery. And so it changes the whole dynamic. But I even wish I would have partnered with another organization and say, hey, this is my idea. What do you think? Today it worked out. It worked out great. But there is in our state over 6,500 nonprofits, and it's crazy. And so people are trying to reinvent the wheel all the time. And that is not a good thing for the mission and for the people you're serving.
Wow.
It's a good point.
That's a great point.
Yeah, it's a very, very good point. But it also, I mean, you had real clarity of purpose though.
Yeah.
With this, right? Because it was the education aspect.
Yes.
That's what jumped out at me when I was reading on your webpage this morning for my, I don't know, one coffee cup of preparation. But I was like, that was real new to me.
Well,
the idea of and I thought it's fantastic.
Well, here's the deal. We really took a very tactical approach to it because we knew we wanted to help in some way. We didn't know what that looked like. And as we looked around, there were all these people doing restoration and the recovery efforts. No one was doing the education, and only 1 to 2% of trafficked individuals are recovered and restored. I mean, 1 to 2%, that's a strikingly low number. So when we started to do research, we looked around for curriculum, and there wasn't any curriculum. It was all very fear-based. It wasn't written for youth. And so that's how we began. But also, it wasn't driven by passion. I mean, I had a passion for women and for youth. I'm not sure I had a passion for fighting human trafficking, actually.
Right. Sure.
And so we did start by running it like a business.
Good.
And that's huge.
You have to.
You have to.
So what's your second takeaway? If we think of, you had clarity of purpose when you started, how'd you get funding, opera or something? I don't know. What's your second takeaway that you'd like people to think of?
Well, I think that realism is really important in nonprofit work. We didn't get funding right away. It took a lot, and we ran on a shoestring budget. We still do. But I think that funding prevention is hard. And so you have to think about those things. How are you going to diversify your funds? How are you can't wait for the big angel donor, because they probably won't come. And even if they do, you don't want one person funding your organization. And so really thinking about diversifying funds, what that looks like, and how you go after them to make sure that you're sustainable. And that's huge.
And that's no different in business. I remember my kids always said, because we own an ad agency, would you like to do Coca-Cola's advertising? No, because it's a great chunk of money that comes in, but it might not come in next year. And that's going to have a whole different set of problems with it. So,
well, and I think to that point, our mission is to prevent human trafficking before it starts. And by doing prevention education, there's a lot of ways you can do that, but that's our mission. And so if somebody came to me and said, I'm going to give you $1 million to start a restoration home, my answer would be no, because I do not want to do that. And that's mission drifting. So you just want to stay real focused on your mission and what you do well, so you can do it with excellence. Because if you do everything, you do nothing well.
Yeah, if you're the master of everything, you're the master of nothing.
And I've got a question, but I'm going to hold off on it until a future segment because this goes by so quick.
Yeah.
So what is that third piece of advice that you want to hand off?
Well, we talked about awareness, and I think that's a really important thing. Awareness, which is important, is like saying, hey, just so you know, human trafficking is here. It's bad. It sucks. Good luck.
Yeah, then what?
Yeah, right. Prevention is actually giving people tools to stop it before it starts. And that has to be community wide. So I can talk to youth, or I can get our curriculum in the schools, and if just the youth know, it's not going to be enough. It has to be parents and caregivers. It also has to be educators, but it has to be corporations. It has to be our businesses in our community, because when we're all educated on what it looks like, what it does, and how to prevent it, we actually can make our community safe from traffickers. And they'll be like, hey, I don't want to work there because it's too hard. I'm going to the next community. And then let's do that same thing in the next community.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember seeing a cartoon once. It was a like a guy walked into a cafe with a gun, and he said, "This is a stick up," and everybody looks at him, and then they go back to having their meal, and then finally he just gives up and walks away. It was kind of this mindset of like, you know what, it's not
whatever
happening here.
Yeah.
We know it's Cleveland.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
I love it.
Oh
I
my
love
gosh.
it. Yeah. But that is a really important thing. And I think too, people talk about awareness a lot, and even organizations that are doing this work will talk about awareness, but unless there's true prevention, some things we can do, it just makes it
you have to
fall
act
flat.
upon it.
Yeah.
You have to act upon it.
Yeah.
That's a good third
Yeah.
takeaway. What about number 4?
Well, let's see. I think collaboration is everything. So competitive industry, nonprofit is competitive.
It's cutthroat.
it
You wouldn't
is-
think it is.
Thank you for calling
Cutthroat.
it what it is.
It is.
Right? Because it is.
It
You're right.
really is. And we've had nonprofits. I'm not going to name names by any means, but we had this big, huge East Coast nonprofit who was making millions of dollars try and literally stop us from what we were doing, because we wound up on the same grant, and they wanted to be the only one. And so I think that,
Of course.
and yet we're not really competing. We're not necessarily in the same space, but it is ugly out there. And I think that mindset of, wait, aren't we doing this for a reason? I mean, put me out of a job. Seriously, I'll go to the spa. I would have no problem with that. But we have to collaborate as nonprofits.
Yeah. Before I donate, always I want to go in and see where's the money going when I give it to you. If I give you $1, how much of that is actually going to what you are trying to do?
Yes.
Because if 87 cents is going to marketing and the people working or whatever, I mean, if that's happening and it's not, then I don't want it.
Well, yeah, go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, and it's good to dig into 990s and good to dig into P&Ls, and all that should be transparent on a nonprofit's, website.
Right.
But what I will say is you do have to look at it carefully, because for like us, we are the program, and 87% of our donations goes into programming. But if you were to look at it blindly, it might look like it's going to salaries. But
so search deeply. I mean, if that 87%, you have to print, you have to publish,
you
have to market,
people to take it.
Yes.
I get all that. It's like if the CEO's making 600,000, I have 1,000 questions.
Right.
Is that wrong? Just kidding. Yes, exactly.
No, not $600.
Oh,
$600,000.
Okay, so embarrassed.
Yes, it's wrong.
Got it.
When I was living in Denver, I worked at a company. We'd all give a piece of our paycheck to a charity, and I'm not going to say who it is. It is nationally.
Interesting.
And we found out that they were buying lottery tickets. That is no. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in lottery tickets. It's like,
are you kidding me?
Yeah, and this was a national. I mean, it was a big charity.
Yeah, it's not
And it's like, I think I'm out.
Yeah.
And I canceled my little,
Yikes.
$10. It's like, I'll buy my own lottery tickets.
Well, and that's the thing. The other thing that is hard for smaller nonprofits like myself is that a lot of money goes to the big nonprofits,
Right.
because they are sustainable. They can show, hopefully they can show what that money is going towards and what that looks like, but yeah, it's challenging.
It's a lot of things, right? So you great big ones, right? So the execs and everything are hanging around with the right people that are running foundations and doling out money. It's always about, the 5 people you hang around with the most.
Yeah.
If you need money, hang out with them.
Yes.
Well,
but does that serve your purpose?
And it's all percentages too. When you look at some big national charity and the CEO does make $600,000, but they're getting millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, that's just a drop in the bucket. Whereas if it's a small charity and you're making $80,000 a year and you're only bringing in 200,000, that's a massive chunk.
Yeah, big.
Right.
Well, that's why you're talking about the whole picture is important. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
Well, before time runs out, because we got about 3 minutes left. So let's hit that last takeaway.
Well, I love, so not only do I do this work, but I also am a professional speaker, and I love talking to nonprofits, because I think there is so much misconception in how to run a nonprofit, what that looks like. But, when you talk about leadership, I think it's talking about what leadership truly looks like.
Sure.
One of the biggest mistakes that I have seen leaders make in this work and a lot of others is that they are not willing to let go of the control of their nonprofit. One of the things that I've worked really hard to do is make sure my leadership team is really empowered to do what they are supposed to do, so I can focus on what I need to do. And if I was trying to do everything in the organization, which I've seen CEOs and executive directors of nonprofits do.
Really? Micromanaging?
What?
No.
I know.
It doesn't
I know.
work. What?
I know.
But it's prevalent.
It's
everywhere. It's crazy.
Well, it's this ego thing. And here's the reality. I'm not good at everything. I know. Shocking. I know you're surprised.
Not really
right
for
now.
me. I thought that the minute I met you. I mean, I like you. Don't take that wrong. But I'm just.
She is great at this, but
I'm
boy,
just serious.
she sucks at
kidding.
Wow.
Travis is going to go, this is Gary's last day. So I'm just trying to have fun.
You are so lucky I have a sense of humor.
You told me you did.
I do. No, but I think that's true. Like, we do know not everybody is good at everything. And so many people just think, I'm going to do this. I'm going to micromanage everybody. And I think being able to let go of that and allow other people to run their portions of your organization is really important, but that takes humility.
Well, also the buck stops
here
if you're the CEO, right? So you
100%.
have that in your mindset.
Yes.
I love your story, Travis. I'm trying to regain your friendship here. I love your story about the employee that, it was a mistake, a big mistake that it cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
But the way you handled it, I loved, because it was like, first off, you'd given her the ability to grow. She had everything she needed to succeed. She made a big error that some people may have fired for, but you use it as a learning experience and said, hey, that's good leadership.
Yes.
I think, because right.
And it's those opportunities.
Right.
It made her such a better employee.
Bingo.
Right.
And teammate, really.
Yeah.
That it's like you can't pass up those opportunities. Yeah, it cost a lot, but so does running a business. It's just kind of part of the deal.
It does. And if you've got a turning wheel of turnover, that's kind of an indication you need to look at that a little bit. Yeah.
In one of these next segments, I want to talk about a book you wrote, which I think is really, really cool, because it's for parents. I would think for teachers or anybody that works with children as well, because I think sometimes awareness is also limiting that word, right? Like, okay, I'm aware there's sex trafficking. But wait a minute, am I aware of anything I may be doing that inadvertently may be contributing to the problem if I have kids and I don't even know it?
That's good.
Because you don't know what you don't know.
And that kind of goes into some of the notes I've been over here scribbling notes, because I didn't want to take over this segment.
Like I did.
I
mean,
wait. No, this is perfect. But it's prevention. It's
Yes.
why aren't
Right.
we teaching this in
Exactly.
the school district?
Yeah.
So we have a break coming up. So let's run to our break real quick. And then we come back. Let's talk about the book. Let's talk about prevention. And let's talk about why in the heck this isn't being taught in the school system. You're listening to Inside Business. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish. We're talking with Stephanie Olson, CEO of the Set Me Free Project. And we will have more right after this.
Building business one story at a time. Inside Business with Travis Filing and Gary Tharnish.
We're back on Inside Business. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish. We're talking with Stephanie Olson, the CEO of the Set Me Free Project. And I really want to talk about education.
Yeah.
During the break, Gary was kind of sharing like his daughter would get into these book suggestions from Amazon. And it's like there seems to be no massive attempt at education. Now, we'll tell people not to smoke, and we'll put a skull and crossbones on a pack of cigarettes, okay, but if it feels good, do it, and just be young and youthful and have your right. It seems like we're not educating in school, which, now call me crazy, that should
You're
be a
crazy.
place. I am crazy.
Thank you for the
I am
permission.
crazy.
I've been waiting 2.5 years for that. Go ahead.
But you would think that would be a place where we would, I don't know, say educate our kids about the dangers of society.
You know, it's tough because I would love to say every school should mandate this. Our curriculum is in a lot of school systems, not enough. That's what I would say. And we have to train the right people too, to be in front of the youth to really have these conversations, because it's got to be a place where they can disclose. It's got to be a person they trust. And it's great to have, like, social workers and counselors in school who know that the kids' family situation, know their triggers, things like that. Those are really important. But it is hard to get into a school system because they're so busy. And teachers, COVID just shifted so much. We used to be the ones going into the schools and talking to the youth, and we grew to about 400 schools in the Midwest very quickly. But once COVID hit, we realized we need to get this in front of more youth. And that's when we went national, because we repackaged our curriculum to do that. We expanded our curriculum from kindergarten through 12th grade for youth, and then college students and all of that stuff. But teachers are overwhelmed. Students aren't quite what they used to be pre-COVID. And there's a lot of, I know a school district that doesn't even take attendance.
Oh, geez.
And it's like, well, we don't want to.
What?
I'm not sure why. I can't, but it's like, we want to make
But that's
sure
the
they're
weird,
okay. Yeah.
the weird world that we live in now.
It was
It is.
possible to not have to go to school when I was a kid.
We had the automated
This just
phone
went
call
down
thing.
the depressing lane.
But thank goodness, as a mom, do you know how
Oh,
mad I
no
would
kidding.
be if my kid weren't in school and no one told me?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I'd be furious.
And then when LPS put into when texting first became a thing, LPS put into this thing, or maybe it was even email, I don't know, but if your kid didn't check in for their class, you were notified. So they had to check all the time, right? Well, I had one kid that had to go at Lincoln High School, which is a huge school in Lincoln, Nebraska, but go from one end of the building clear to the other. And literally it took 9 minutes. I know that because I went to the same school. And so every day, so I call him up. I'm like, okay, dude, really?
Can you
please
get,
but anyway, I see the attempt, but teachers have a ton.
They do.
Teach.
They have a lot on their plate, but and they're not just teaching anymore. They're policing. They're
parenting.
They're
really
parenting.
Yeah.
And so it's really challenging. But our goal is to get the curriculum into the hands of social workers and counselors
There
in
you
the
go.
school system so that they can have those conversations. And a lot of times, depending on the size of the school, they have opportunities to do, okay, we're going to sit down for 6 weeks or things like that. And so
Yeah.
that's what we love to see. It is challenging. And so one of the things we do is also get our curriculum in the hands of agencies who go into the schools, who work with youth, who serve
Yeah.
youth and things
Well, it
like
makes
that.
sense. You're getting in the line of
Yeah.
offense, best line of offense. We'd obviously say best
Yeah.
line of defense, but best line of offense, right?
That's
They're
true.
out there. So that's talking a lot about kids. You've
Yeah.
written a book.
Yes.
The book is titled Talk Early, Talk Often. I'm going to do
Mhm.
this little look at it here.
Oh.
Now you can't see my face.
Yeah, you gotta
I'm
raise it.
terrible.
There you
I
go.
can't back up. I can't back up vehicles that you're towing something either.
Oh.
Here, let's try this. Anyway,
Okay.
it's called Talk
Well,
Early.
you're holding
Talk
it
often.
up to the
Yeah,
monitor
I
and
know.
not to the
Oh,
camera.
there we go.
That's why.
Thank you.
I was gonna say I
Okay.
can take that if you want me to.
This is what you get when you get me as a human friend.
Oh my
Like,
goodness.
I'm not going to apologize for being
What the hell
human.
were they teaching in school when you were a
Okay.
kid? They
We
didn't
didn't-
even teach.
They didn't take
Oh my
attendance.
goodness.
Oh.
Anyway, I want to talk about that book because as a parent, man, like I never got the book to be a good parent. It's pretty obvious.
Yeah,
I guess
well-
at this point, probably for our listeners. But I mean, you don't know what you don't know.
No, it's true.
Right? And it's like the earlier example you gave us in one of the earlier segments of the student that was being trafficked but was
Yeah.
living at home, going
Yeah.
to school, 4.0, just went out with the boyfriend. Nobody knew that the boyfriend
Right.
was trafficking her. So you don't know what you don't know. Does this book, I mean, what is all in this? Obviously,
Yeah.
Talk Early, Talk Often.
Yeah.
Where'd the title, how'd the title?
Well, the title came in because I think a lot of people have this mindset. It's kind of like the sex talk, like when do I start having the conversation about human trafficking
Yeah.
with my kids?
When the first bee lands on the flower and the other one
Right,
comes, and then you go,
right.
oh,
And-
sorry.
No, exactly. And I always tell parents, like the sex talk, you should be having that conversation so early that your kid doesn't remember the first talk.
Mm.
There you
And-
go.
So it's
Yes.
not awkward.
That's a
Right.
great way to
That's-
word it.
Yeah. And so that's how it is with this too. These conversations need to happen on a regular basis. They need to happen often. You don't want them to be fear tactics. You don't, like, if you go to Target, make sure that some person isn't following you. You want it to be legit stuff. And so in order to know how to have those conversations, you have to know what it is. And so that's what this book does. It talks about, how do you talk to your kid about human trafficking? How do you talk about social media safety and gaming? And how do you have those conversations in a way that are not like your kid's not going to look at you and go, oh my gosh, you have no idea what you're talking about, which, by the way, they will do anyway. So it doesn't matter what you say,
Right.
they will still do it.
Good
But
point.
having those conversations and not being afraid to have them, and not being fear-based when you have them.
And one thing you said, like the boyfriend,
Yeah.
it's something that you just don't think of.
No.
I don't know
No.
why your brain goes, well, it's probably some 43-year-old guy. And then you go,
Right.
well, wait a minute. Why would he be walking through the halls of a high school?
Thank you for saying that, because that is what we think so often. Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be gaming with this person. I think it's a teenager. It's really some 50-year-old. That can happen, but it could also be a 15-year-old, and they are also trafficking, or they are recruiters. And so, when you're on social media, it doesn't have to be a fake profile, which
Right.
most of the youth will say right away. How do you know a profile is safe? Well, it's a real person. It's a real picture. Actually, most traffickers on social media and gaming are real pictures, real people, and they're building real relationships. They're just bad ones.
So you used a word earlier, grooming, which
Yeah.
most, like, from me, I'm like, my cat needs,
Yeah.
my dogs never really need grooming. Now I have this cat that
Yeah.
actually needs
Oh,
grooming.
wow.
But anyway,
That's hard.
so when you don't think about grooming, so your friend, I can
Yeah.
remember when the kids were young and they were like, who's this you're talking about? I haven't met him, because I was pretty active in my
Yeah,
kids'
yeah.
life, maybe to their chagrin. But anyway, now that you know me, you
Good
get
for
it.
you.
Yeah.
But they, I'd be like, who is this? And then I'd be like, well, you've never met them yet? Where do they live?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Hey, wait a minute.
Right.
Who, like, wait, wait, know. And then I remember reading an article years later that said there's certain things you can ask your children or just us as adults if you're thinking you're getting scammed to find out if that person, is it a bot, is it real, is what's going on. And now today with AI, oh my God, that scares me even worse that it's going to just.
I know. Well, and that's why you have to start early. That's why you have to have those mind-numbing conversations with your kids when you are not interested in what they're talking about, but you got to appear interested. When my teenagers, I go to bed very early. When my kids were teenagers, they would come into my room at 11 o'clock, and that's when they wanted to talk to me. Well, I was sleeping, but guess what? I'm going to wake up because my teenager wants to talk to me.
Yeah, this is important.
Yeah.
This is extremely important.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we have another break coming up here, so let's run to that. But I want to continue on this topic. I have a question. So you're listening to Inside Business, Travis File and Gary Tharnish. We're talking with Stephanie Olson, CEO of the Set Me Free Project, and we will have more right after this break.
Local entrepreneurs, one conversation at a time. Inside Business with Travis Filing and Gary Tharnish.
We're back on Inside Business. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish. We're talking with Stephanie Olson, CEO of the Set Me Free Project. And it's time for This Needs an Adjustment. This is something where, a mindset has to be adjusted. It's sponsored by Ascend Chiropractic. We appreciate those guys out there. And I'm going to make the adjustment statement because we were kind of talking about it during the break here. But I think the whole mindset of who's trafficking who.
Yeah.
That's the adjustment that we really have to be on point.
Yeah.
For it could be anybody because, could friends, girls traffic girls, boys traffic boys? Does that happen in high school a lot?
Yeah.
I'm glad you're bringing this up because since we've started this show, mine shifted.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I never would have thought of the boyfriend thing, number one, but good, this is great.
It's weird because just like the boy thing, you go, boys? Well, yeah, duh. The world's an insane place. Yeah. And this is kind of, I'm so glad we're having this conversation.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of breaking the stereotypes.
Yep. And I think it's important that we recognize I had a kid once when I said, what is a predator? We actually purposely don't use the word predator when we're talking to kid other than the intro of that, because what if predator is mom? What if predator is dad? What if predator is boyfriend? And this kid said, oh yeah, a predator is like one of those really, really old guys, like 30. This was an 8th grader.
Yeah, right.
In a trench coat and scary. Well, if that
driving
were
a van that says free puppy petting,
exactly.
or something.
And if that would be great, and it would make it a whole lot easier for us. But the reality is all of us could be predators, right? We're all,
that's just it.
We all could be traffickers. Traffickers could look like anyone. There was a gentleman in one of our, we were educating, one of my team members was educating a group, and he was in his 70s, and he approached her and he said, I was trafficked when I was a kid by my teacher. And what happened was his friends were like, oh man, good for you, like the hot teacher mindset. But he was literally being victimized by this person, but he never said anything because, well, I think it's supposed to be okay.
Well, that or part of the grooming is you deserve it. You're unworthy.
Yeah.
I can fill the voids in your life. Your parents suck. I agree.
Yeah.
You name
100%.
it. Yeah.
And I trust you and I love you. And why would I question anything?
We've talked on this show over and over, it being a business show, that who do people do business with? So in this case, who and one of them is if they like you, they can earn the trust, right? Liking is the first thing. So that's how that grooming probably starts.
And I always say that the person who goes into the grooming process is never the person that comes out. But I do think we have this mindset that trafficking is happening in these really seedy areas in our community.
Right.
And certainly it can, but think about trafficking. When you think about trafficking, it requires money and, we see a lot of prominence. So wherever you live, your neighbor could be a trafficker.
Oh, sure.
And I think those are, so anybody can be victimized. Anybody can be trafficked. We see with sex trafficking, infants to senior citizens being trafficked for sex.
Oh my God.
And so it's horrible.
So
It's
sad.
horrible. But on the same token, a trafficker can look like anybody, can be in any industry, any business. I mean, all of that, and a buyer, you know, when you think about that.
Are there, and then, so that, I was going to ask this question, and now I kind of think like maybe I shouldn't, but are there any signs, anything a parent can look for, or just any of us in society? Are there certain signs of, and I won't use the word predator, but somebody's that's grooming someone? Is there a way to know, or any signs, or like your kids, if you look at their social media, or warning signs?
That's a great question. There are several. So one sign might be there's a change of behavior, right? There might be a change of clothing. There might be a different now. And I always say their typical is now atypical. And that can be drugs, that can be anything, but that's what it could be, trafficking. And so looking at a change, could be a change in it could be a change in grades. Maybe they're falling asleep in class. That could be an indicator of I'm gaming at 3 a.m. or maybe I'm being trafficked at night. They've got an older new friend, and by older I don't necessarily mean like my 8th grader is now friends with the 53-year-old man down the street.
Right.
Older could be my 8th grader is now hanging out with an 18-year-old or a 20-year-old, and what's going on, and they're not introducing you to that person, or they're not talking about them as much. So I always say, ask the questions behind the questions. So tell me who this is. How did you meet? What do you do together? What are those things?
Yeah, tell me more about that.
Yes. So you got a new job. That's exciting. What do you get to do with your money? I love this. Tell me how you found that. So I think those are some of the things you can look for. If you're talking about someone who is not in your family, you might look for somebody who is very hyper submissive. Maybe they're looking away. They're not making eye contact. They're with somebody that maybe doesn't look quite right, like they're not connected, or somebody's holding all of their, especially in the medical communities, we see where this might come up, because 86% of trafficked individuals will go through some medical community at some point while they're being trafficked. And maybe the person they're with is doing all the talking or holding all the documents. Those could be indicators.
Signs of massive control.
If that's mom. But we also had a young gal who was trafficked by mom. And one of the things she said was being aware of some of those looks that you might get. So maybe I say something and mom snaps a look at the kiddo, and it's like, you are not to say that. And so some of those things can happen with, whether it's a parent or somebody else, being aware of that communication between those two people as well.
Interesting.
Makes me think of, oh my God, I just had a terrifying moment of time. I was with a family showing houses, and one of the older kids said something to the younger brother, and the father whipped and said, don't interfere with my communication, with how I communicate with him. That's between me and him.
Whoa.
And I was like, whoa, what? It was weird. But I remember it bothered me forever. I was like, what was that all about? But that may have been I don't know. It may be nothing, but I'm just kind of like, what hits me now, I'm thinking is, I had a bad vibe and a bad gut feeling about it. But what do you do with that?
But that's what we're talking about. So there is absolutely a national hotline for human trafficking.
What is that?
And it is 888-373-7888. So I'm going to say that again, 888-373-7888. 888.
Hopefully we can get that on the web.
Or text Be Free. That's a national hotline. But every state has places to go. And I can provide those as well. But what do? You do report it. And whether that's calling your national hotline, whether it's calling a state hotline, whether it is just letting somebody know, you do want to report it because that report is made, which is why we want to do more specific industry training, because in that case, it may not have been trafficking, it may have been nothing, but it made you go, so it was probably something that could be reported, and then who knows what could have,
it could have been nothing.
Yeah. So it's always good to have those opportunities.
By nature, I hate interfering in other people's families with their kids. Easiest way to lose a friend is when they say, "Oh, I don't know what's wrong with my kid." Well, don't comment.
I'll tell you what's wrong with your kid.
That's right.
Right.
I mean, so you do kind of have that inherent, or like, I don't want to be a tattletale. I don't want to be, and it could have just been nothing. It just was weird.
But in Nebraska, we are all mandated reporters, which means if we see abuse, and I'm not saying that was abuse.
No, I get what you're saying.
We are all mandated reporters. So if we see abuse of youth, we are required by law to report. In other states, it might be teachers, medical people, something like that. But
wow. Well, we have another break coming up, so let's run to the break, and then you're listening to Inside Business. Travis File and Gary Tharnish talking with Stephanie Olson, CEO of the Set Me Free Project. We're going to have more right after this.
Where small business owners tell their story. Inside Business with Travis Filing and Gary Tharnish.
We're back on Inside Business. Travis Filing, Gary Tharnish. We're talking with Stephanie Olson, CEO of the Set Me Free Project. And I want to talk about, we were talking about, like when to call and how to call. And it seems like society has gotten to this point where, I don't know, I feel weird calling. Because half the time nothing ever happens. The other half, I'm just Gladys Kravitz going, Abner. Our listeners are probably too young to remember all that.
I get it.
I remember.
Do you get it, Brian, at all? Brian gets it. He watches old people TV.
Bewitched, baby.
But we do. We live in this society where it's like, I remember when the whole hashtag Me Too came out. And it's like, oh, brilliant. This is great. We're actually getting some pervs and putting their stuff in the street. And then pretty soon it's like, well, Frank looked at me funny, so hashtag Me Too. No, hold on. No. Hashtag not you too.
Right.
Take your little attention getting and get down the road. And now we're in this weird spot. Like Gary said, we're all trying to be victims, to be special. How do you,
well, so man, it's so deep, right?
It's hard.
You studied psychology too, so but it's like when you talk about being able to groom a victim or people, they look for the
vulnerable,
children, not only vulnerable, vulnerable, because, and one sign they'll look for is their massive need to be loved. I would see that when I volunteered in school. I volunteered in my kids' elementary school for 9 years, every Wednesday from 8 to 12. And there were certain kids that were just like, I had one boy in 3rd grade that asked me, on the 5th time he asked me, the teacher said, talk to me about it.
Wow.
But he said, can you please be my dad?
Oh my God.
So you're like, he was like reaching out for that need to be loved. That's part of it too. But this whole victimhood thing is like, it's like if you call racism constantly about everything,
nothing is.
Nothing's racist because everything is, right?
And that's a problem. For those who can't see, I'm a Black girl. So that is a huge thing to me.
Sure.
And I think the same is true for sexual violence or sexual abuse, things like that. Not everything is sexual violence. And just because you insult me doesn't mean I've just been abused sexually by you. There's certain things that we really have to, what human trafficking is has to be what human trafficking is. And there needs to be differences. And I think we have to be very careful that we're not calling what is what
Right.
isn't.
Yeah, like not everybody's a hoarder. So if my spouse is listening, not everybody's a hoarder. Okay, so
did you not clean up this morning
I'm
after
not
breakfast
sure.
or something?
I'm not sure what's happening there.
No, but that's the basic point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like you need to be,
Right.
yeah. So, and that makes it,
Yeah, it's like there's a weird fringe, and I'll bet you I could I'll bet you I could slide that under the definition of this, and it makes the problem worse.
Well, and I'll go one further too, because what I will tell you is there's different mindsets on the way to work with youth across Nebraska, actually across anywhere. And one of the biggest challenges we have, we go with the mindset that sexting, not a great thing for youth, right? That you can, once it gets out there, it's everywhere, you can get in trouble. Well, there are people who say sexting is the healthiest sex for youth. Well, okay.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go no with that.
Yeah.
But also we have people who are like, pornography, let's get pornography in the hands of youth to just help the. Are you kidding me? I mean, there are just some things we need to be very mindful about, and it's we don't all agree, I would say.
And I think we're giving access to a lot. I think back to, and we don't get political. I'm trying not to get political, but in our legislature, they were putting some books in like elementary schools.
Right.
And then one of the senators, legislators started reading from this book and inserting other, which was highly offensive, which was the point.
Right.
And I'm sitting here going, if this is offensive to whatever senator's name got inserted in there, maybe that's an indicator that we shouldn't be doing this, because we're almost grooming at that point.
We have to protect our children.
Right.
Bottom line, we really do. And there are our kids are craving boundaries. Boundaries are really important. And I think we're getting to this place of we don't need boundaries for our kids, but they are going down. I can't even tell you the kids we see, they are dying for boundaries.
Attention, love, boundaries, rules. Give me,
and that's a vulnerability right there.
Exactly.
I mean, huge. Yeah.
So how can business owners support you? We have a lot of business owners. How can they support you? How do we reach you? How do we find you? Those basic things.
That's a great question. Well, first go to setmefreeproject.net. You can find out everything there. You can get the book there. You can donate there. You can get our curriculum. But I would say specifically with business owners, we're doing a couple of things. We are training all of their staff, and that does, our training really does help not only prevent human trafficking, but really create a strong culture, even in the workplace, because it's a different mindset. We don't just talk about the topic. So training, having the opportunity, we have online courses for onboarding. If you see human trafficking in your business, and you do, I can tell you, you do, we can train your staff, and your families will be trained as well. But also support us financially. It's a great opportunity to do good within your business. We are trying to really better the community, and we do need financial support. Or put on a fundraiser, friend-raiser, or host an event, host a book signing. We would love to partner with businesses in any way possible.
Very nice. Give us that website again.
Setmefreeproject.net.
Outstanding. I still have so many questions. We have like 30 seconds left.
I'll come back.
I was just going to say, you got to come back and talk to us maybe this fall. Because
put her on the victim. I mean, the guest list. Sorry, what did that came out right? Okay, wait.
Wow.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and talking to us. You have been listening to Inside Business with Travis File and Gary Tharnish. And we were talking with Stephanie Olson, the CEO of the Set Me Free Project.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend, guys, and we will see you next week.